shouldn't I be doing this for the entire year instead of just during those spots in specific year? And when I did that, I actually am practicing intermittent fasting. So as much as possible, I just eat once or twice a day. So I eat starting at 12. And then if ever I would eat again, that should not go beyond 6 p.m. So the more I shorten my time, my eating time, the better for me until I do one meal a day or OMAD. So I'm not advocating that everyone does this, but something that they could probably look into. And, depending on how their body would respond, just land on where the optimal solution or intermittent fasting scheme that would work best for you. And it did me wonders, Dina. So I lost about 8 kilos at least, and I'm still losing a lot. I I had blurred vision, maybe because of pre-diabetic condition. And because of this process of intermittent fasting and ketosis, I have 20/20. You see, I am not wearing glasses. And actually, I am, at 20/20, I did not have any LASIK. I can still read very, very clearly.
Welcome to the Leaders Edge talk show. Today, we have a very popular personality in HR and all the human resource industry. I was just stunned to learn that, oh my gosh, he's with another company, and this time he is the VP of Talent Experience, Doxa Talent. Find out more. And here is our inimitable Eric Riego de Dios to help us understand fasting and leadership.
So thank you so much, Dina, for this opportunity. As you know, when I was speaking with Dino as well, everything that I've been sharing has been really things that I'm passionate about. So we started with a growth mindset. I also talked about, Dina, if you could recall as well, about resting and sleep. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. And right now, I'm equally passionate about fasting. So fasting, Dina, is, this is something that is probably a perspective or a suggestion. That's why the subtitle for this conversation is a food for thought, something that I'm offering, but you can take it or you can leave it. But essentially, just for our purpose of discussion, let me just go through these slides so that we'll have some points to ponder, so to speak. As you mentioned, Dina, fasting actually started in the 5th century. And we all know about the Greek physician Hippocrates, right? He is the father of modern day medicine. That's why we call it the Hippocratic Oath. So having said that, as you mentioned, start ages and ages ago. Fasting or intermittent fasting has been prescribed by doctors for certain ailments or maladies, Dina. So you are right. Before it became a fad, before it became an it thing now, it was already a patented, an orderly prescription for certain illnesses way before Christ was even born. So that was even in the 5th century. Having said that, Dina, actually, even before that, even before history began, as you know, we are hunters and gatherers, right? Our ancestors, they hunted together during the Ice Age and they're gathered. So essentially, it's really a matter of fasting and feasting because essentially you don't know when will be your next meal. So in the duration of the absence of food, you really have to hold on to that hunger and not eat anything. And it could be, 6 hours, 12 hours, or even days. You just don't know when your fathers or the male population will be able to kill and bring that flesh to the table of the family. So really there is no rhythm. They didn't know breakfast, they didn't know lunch, and they didn't know dinner. It's just a meal whenever they have it. If they have it during the middle of the night, then that's their meal for the day. If they have it during lunchtime, great, because it's still with daylight. But then again, you can never say that you'll have breakfast at this time or lunch at this time or dinner at this time. And they might not even know the concept of breakfast, lunch, or dinner because they didn't know when the food was coming or will be served on the table. So that is essentially how we are physiologically built. So that's why, Dina, that's why I said it is forced fasting as the default before agriculture. Before we had rice, before we had wheat, before we had any grain at all, there was nothing. And essentially, what we thrived upon was actually flesh from what we hunt, from the animals that we hunt, or fruits that we gather from whatever fruit-bearing trees that we have. So that is the default diet where our teeth, our digestive system was actually formed. And fortunately, because of the agricultural revolution, when we had this farming, acres and acres of land and tons of grain are actually produced, we have an overabundance of grain, carbohydrates, and sugar that is easy for our disposal. And that's the time that we're able to educate ourselves and form the concept of a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. And sometimes we would even frown upon people who would actually just have one meal a day because that's not supposed to be the status quo. Or we will have a perception of it is probably an impoverished way of living if you only have less than 3 meals a day, right? And we'll even be proud of saying we even have 8 meals a day as a sign of a status symbol. But I don't know whether that is a wise way of measuring success because that is actually bringing the industrial world to the higher degree of actual health risk. And what do I mean by that? I know, Dina, that you already know that in the industrial world, there's higher cases of obesity, overweight, higher cases of metabolic diseases. And what do I know? What do you mean by metabolic diseases? Metabolic diseases are those diseases that are actually associated by lack of metabolism. That's why you are gaining fat, you're getting more obese, you have inflammation. Inflammation is the cause of many heart diseases. That's why you have clogged arteries or veins, and so on and so forth. So we'll discuss more about that, Dina, but I'm just establishing the fact that what we are practicing now might not necessarily be how we are supposed to have been built in the first place.
I'm just curious, Eric, what prompted you to somehow, I don't know if you did research or somebody mentioned this to you, but what triggered your interest, your passion, and later on it's now becoming an advocacy for fasting for better or effective leadership?
Well, thank you, Dina. Thank you so much for actually raising that question. In the past, I've been really advocating for something that I believe in and that I personally gone through as a process. So this is nothing different. As a Christian practitioner, I actually do fasting twice a year. So at the start of the year and also in the middle of the year. And I'm already experiencing a lot of breakthroughs and a lot of benefits from fasting. However, during the pandemic, Dina, I didn't know how it impacted you and your family. But being trapped inside your house, doing nothing, and sometimes overeating, because that's the only activity that you actually do most of the time, order here, order there, eat here, eat there, but within the confines of your body, of your home, not a lot of activity. And that actually built up a lot of bad things in my body. Waste in my body accumulated. I became fatter. The blood chemistry is worse, LDL, cholesterol, creatinine, and so on and so forth. All of the readings were way far from what you will call healthy. And I realized that, by reading and doing YouTube and also realizing the feeling, the lightness and clarity that fasting brought to me during the early part of the year and the middle part of the year, I said that shouldn't I be doing this for the entire year instead of just during those spots in specific year? And when I did that, I actually am practicing intermittent fasting. So as much as possible, I just eat once or twice a day. So I eat starting at 12. And then if ever I would eat again, that should not go beyond 6 p.m. So the more I shorten my time, my eating time, the better for me until I do one meal a day or OMAD. So I'm not advocating that everyone does this, but something that they could probably look into. And, depending on how their body would respond, just land on where the optimal solution or intermittent fasting scheme that would work best for you. And it did me wonders, Dina. So I lost about 8 kilos at least, and I'm still losing a lot. I I had blurred vision, maybe because of pre-diabetic condition. And because of this process of intermittent fasting and ketosis, I have 2020. You see, I am not wearing glasses. And actually, I am, at 2020, I did not have any LASIK. I can still read very, very clearly. And, I feel lighter, I feel stronger, I feel more lucid. Hopefully that comes through as well, Dina. So that is the personal part of me. If I'm experiencing this, I wanted to share this with many leaders so that they could be as effective as they can be. Right? So the next topic here, Dina, is all about, we said and we have established that fasting is not only a practice even before history began, and it's also part and parcel of and integral part of the major religions practices. So we talked about Christianity, we talk about Islam. So case in point, Dina, I believe that you are a believer and you have a great reference and knowledge about the Bible. And we all know that Christ actually fasted for 40 days, and that prepared him for his challenges and for his ministry. In the same way that Buddha, even before he reached his stage of enlightenment, actually fasted and had his own breakthrough. And we all know that for these two luminaries of history, fasting actually gave birth to a certain breakthrough, whether that's spiritual enlightenment. It was a breakthrough. It's a phase that they had to go through before they reached a certain level. And they're actually known throughout the world and, in all of history as well, in the Bible, specifically for Christ, that he fasted. And fasting is not necessarily an if condition. It is when, because during their time, it is expected that they will have to fast. It's part of their culture. It's part of their way of life. So it is not something that you have to, practice just because you opt to do it, but because it is expected of you, probably as a Christian, or probably during that time, Christianity is not yet given birth, but probably as part of the Jewish tradition even. So up to now, fasting is practiced in Christianity. As you know, Dina, I don't know whether you're doing this, but I know even in the Catholic realm, they practice this in the Lenten season, right, Dina? And even in the born-again Christian, evangelical Christian realm as well, we actually practice this twice a year. So we started it after Christmas and also during the middle of the year. And we actually try to have breakthroughs as well, not only spiritually, but also physically. As you know, Dina, Islam, popularly known as Ramadan. Ramadan is the holy month for fasting as well, right? So from sunrise to sundown, they're not supposed to eat, and they're not supposed to actually splurge on anything. So everything is tempered, so to speak, right? So when it goes down, the sun goes down, that's the time that they could eat as well. So more or less, you already have there a 12-hour of fast or forced fasting, so to speak. So usually, fasting associated with spiritual, intellectual, and even physical breakthrough all throughout the history. So even before it became a fad, intermittent fasting, keto diet, it has been there. It's just waiting for us to rediscover it and actually adopt it or practice it in our modern world. So why is it very popular, Dina? Mainly because it has very specific and tangible health benefits, no? So we talked about among those who practice Ramadan, and we can actually research this a lot, and even a simple Google search would actually give you very very specific reasons why we should be practicing not Ramadan but fasting directly. So because it reduces metabolic diseases such as cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, insulin resistance, and lo and behold, even mental stress is reduced because of fasting. And we'll talk more about that. So I'll be enumerating, Dina, some big words in the realm of intermittent fasting. And bear with me as we discuss this through. And if you have questions, Dina, let's be more interactive if you want. And I feel very passionate about this because I myself am practicing this, because I cannot preach what I don't actually practice. It gives us more credibility when we do that. So insulin sensitivity. And what do I mean about this, Dina? So we all know about insulin. Insulin is the element that actually processes or metabolizes our sugar in the body. So if we don't have insulin, we are not able to process sugar. So having said that, the more insulin that we have, the more that we're able to process sugar. Supposed to be that is the case. However, because we eat more than once a day or twice or thrice a day, the body becomes sort of accustomed to insulin, right? Because every time that we eat, the body releases insulin. So the more that your body is accustomed to insulin, the more that it would be less responsive to insulin. So if you know what I'm talking about, so even if we produce more insulin, the body in a way would resist insulin and not process it. So what happens? We are not able to process sugar well. And that is the reason why we become prone to diabetes, especially diabetes 2. Right? So that is one of the reasons why we have to be careful in terms of eating too frequently. Before, again, so this could be very polemic or debatable in a way, or it could be that it could bring a lot of argumentation. However, we have to, look into this very scholastic side and scientific side of things. When we eat, we produce insulin. So when we eat less, the less we produce insulin. And with the less production of insulin, the more sensitive the body becomes to insulin. Okay? As such, so my case here is, if we eat less or less frequently, then perhaps the body will be able to process sugar better and in the right way. Because when we are insulin resistant, meaning we are not able to process insulin, or we become resistant to insulin, insulin actually sort of destroys the body's metabolic processing. So that is the reason why we become more prone to cholesterol buildup, to plaque buildup, and I'll talk more about that later. So let's go to ketosis first, because all of these would add on in terms of our holistic knowledge of intermittent fasting. Ketosis, and the root word there, Dina, is keto, right? And that's the in thing right now, keto. Keto essentially is it means fat, fat burning, fat utilization, or fat processing, as opposed to sugar processing or glucose processing. So glucose or carbohydrates, remember, Adina, when we were in the elementary, I don't know if we are exposed to the same educational process. So first and foremost, they say that the foundation of our food group is the carbohydrates. That should be what we should be consuming most, right? So that's the first bunch. So about, I don't know whether they say 70%, and then the next one will be 20% protein, and then 10% will just have to be for fat, right? So carbohydrates 70%, 20% protein, and 10% fat. But to me, that is a total lie. Why am I saying that? Because, there's just some sort of industrial or agricultural conspiracy only because we produce a lot of rice and we produce a lot of crops and we produce a lot of corn. So we have to consume a lot of carbohydrates. But essentially, the body, as mentioned before, is not made to actually process a lot of carbohydrates. But because even before the farming stage, what we have been eating are largely protein, or flesh of animals and fruits, and a few crops, because that is what is available without the agricultural intervention, so to speak. So going back to ketosis is the burning and the processing of fat to become the energy and the fuel of the body, as opposed to our carbo or sugar-based consumption to fuel our body. Why is keto better than sugar? Keto is better than sugar because one, it burns your fat. And wouldn't you want to burn your fat, Dina? I'm sure you would, right? And two, sugar actually is not brain friendly. Some studies would say that if you use sugar as fuel for your brain, it would actually create a lot of plaque. And that is the early sign of potential dementia in the future. So because there are lots of plaques in your brain, it calcifies your neurons. And when your neurons are calcified, they are not able to speak with each other because the signals are somehow impeded. So if you impede the brain, if you calcify the brain, it blocks the optimal processing of your nervous system, especially of your gray matter, right? So what is good is ketosis. Actually, our nervous system, our brain loves keto. Actually, it prefers keto because it burns easily and it lasts longer. So, and it does not leave any waste in your brain. Unlike sugar, once you process it, it leaves waste in your brain and it becomes plaque. And that's the reason for the calcification of your neurons, right? And thus rendering it less effective, less efficient, and making it some sort of the early signs and symptoms of dementia, right? So that's why we have to prefer keto over sugar energy. So talking about plaques, remember, Dina, I said metabolic diseases. And plaques just don't develop in the brain. It develops in your veins, in your arteries. And that is one of the reasons for clogged arteries or clogged heart. One of the reasons for your cardiovascular diseases. So they say, it's your bad cholesterol, it's because you eat lots of fat, and so on and so forth. So all of those things somehow might not necessarily be scientifically proven. But what is scientifically proven is that when you have inflamed body, when I say inflamed body, this is when your body become insulin resistant, there is greater tendency for your body to inflame. Namamaga yung katawan mo, Dina. And you heard about arthritis, right? You heard about gout. And all of these are symptoms of an inflamed body. Why is it inflamed? Because your body is not able to process things. Why is it not able to process things? Because it has become insulin resistant, right? So it goes in that series of like domino effect. Because your body is insulin resistant, it becomes less sensitive to insulin, it becomes more inflamed, and because it's inflamed, you are now prone to other diseases like gout, arthritis, like calcified veins or arteries, and that's why you have those cardiovascular diseases as well. That's why we talked about plaques. Plaques develop not only in your brain, it also develops in your nervous system and in your circulatory system. That's why it's important for us to practice not ketosis, but practice intermittent fasting or fasting in general. Why is it important? Because everything would need to rest, Dina. Wouldn't you agree? Everything would need to rest. Every part of our body would somehow rest. You know, your heart is beating 24/7 for sure, but definitely not at the same rate as when you are awake, right? Somehow it decreases in terms of rate. In the same manner, your pancreas, your liver, your stomach, your intestine, they would benefit from resting. And funny though, because my last topic was all about rest. It was all about rest. And it's not just about just sleeping, it's also about giving your body the right activity. It can increase, but also it merits a decreased activity as well. So that's why I would really propose for us when we talk about fasting, because it increases the probability of the body to recover. And when the body stops eating, let's say for 24 hours, and I'm not prescribing for everyone to do this. It really depends on their physiological disposition and how they're able to master fasting. But if you're able to practice fasting for 24 hours or beyond, you might just reach a level called, or a stage called autophagy. And autophagy depends on how you would really pronounce it, British or American. Auto always means it's automatic or self. And phagy means eating. So it's kind of creepy because it means self-eating. You're feeding on yourself. It might be a bit creepy at first, but if you really look down into its meaning, it means that you are cleaning and getting your body, or getting rid of any waste from your body. So when your body is hungry, it will automatically try to find food, right, Dina? It's just automatic for your body to self-sustain itself. If it's hungry, it has to feed. And if it doesn't have sugar, then it would look for another source of food. Then it will be the ketosis stage, where you actually burn fat to produce energy and to feed your body. Now, if you don't have enough ketones, then it would have to produce and get and burn other proteins in your body. So where would it look for? It would look for things that are not essential in your body, right? So imagine if there is a cell that does not serve purpose in your body, that is the immediate focus of our body to digest and consume and transform into energy. So you can just imagine the benefits of autophagy. So for example, if you have plaques, Dina, in your brain, in your nervous system, in your circulatory system, that is the immediate target of autophagy. So it will eat your plaques, it will eat your cholesterol, it will eat anything that hampers the optimal function of your body. And sometimes, Dina, this is not just anecdote, but it is scientifically proven that if you do have tumors in your body, Dina, that would be the easy suspect of autophagy. So somehow it cleanses your body even of potential cancerous cells in your body. So it's very good because it's self-renewing, it's regenerative. And one thing is for sure, now I'm going to the last bullet, growth hormones. There's some jokes even in the political scenario, and even in the celebrity arena as well, Dina, of stem cells. And you know what I'm talking about, Dina, stem cells. And they say that even this legendary politician who's actually very, very old and is not dying, there's some rumors that he's injecting himself with stem cells, right? And stem cells are actually growth hormones. So after the process of autophagy, you will also trigger the production of growth hormones. Why would you trigger production of growth hormones? Your body will now then try to repair itself, try to optimize itself, because it is releasing, it is cleansing, and your body is in some sort of heightened alert. When I say heightened alert, it says that, okay, We just need to produce what we need to produce, and we just have to eat what we have to eat. The wastage in your body, we have to cleanse whatever we need to cleanse. And because we have to repair, we have to produce growth hormones. So your body triggers growth hormones, and growth hormones actually produces better glycogen, Dina. That's why I don't know when you practice fasting, especially for the long term, they say that it clarifies your skin. It gives you that glowing look and your youthful look even. And Dina, it's really good because it renews your body, rejuvenates your body to a certain extent. No, but again, it has to be done in a very measured way. You don't have to really over fast, right?
Yeah.
2 days, 3 days, that's good. But beyond that, you would really need to see medical clearance or medical attention. So it really produces a lot of benefits for our body, and these are all scientifically, proven. So we can just Google it up, go to the Mayo Clinic, go to your very credible medical practitioners and medical researchers, and these are all backed up by facts. So these are not marites or chismes, Dina. These are all medical and scholastically proven facts. So these are factual in nature. So again, Ramadan proves it. Even in the Middle Eastern countries, there's very few cases as compared to the Western countries like North America, even Western Europe. They have less cases of cardiovascular diseases and even diabetes. They are less insulin resistant. There's more ketosis. There's less plaque, and there is more growth hormones. So Dina, I would just be happy that for many people will be practicing growth hormones, that even in their glory days of old age, they would really look as youthful and as glorious and as elegant as you. So I think your fasting really is a key and one of the factors, or probably even one of the fountains of youth, so to speak. So I'm down to my last slides, Dina. So you actually opened the topic about fasting and leadership, and I'm a fan of health and leadership, Dina, because I believe that if you are not healthy, you will never become a great
Yeah. Yeah.
leader. Right? I hear you, Dina. I believe that you truly agree. If you are a leader, you have to be present. You have to be exuding the right energy. You have to be inspiring people. And how can you inspire people if you are not present, if you don't have the energy, and if you don't have the lucid mental state so that you could lead effectively? Health and
Oh.
leadership would always go together. Health and
Yeah.
leadership
Okay.
would always go
Yeah.
together.
Eric, if you don't
Yes,
mind, before we
I
move
don't.
on to health and leadership, for your information, my daughter, who after getting out of the missions, she got married to an American, and because she had early signs of what we call arthritis, she has been advised by her doctors in America that she will go on intermittent fasting. And
Wow.
it's yes, and it seems to be working on her because her health has started to improve as a result. So just so you know that there is already a good example of that. Now my question is, there are certain people like me, I believe I should also consult my doctor because I have this situation, I have this condition called hyperacidity. And I'm so afraid to go on fasting because my hyperacidity will kick in and I will feel pain in my stomach. So I guess I should consult a doctor on whether that is good for me. Because so far, I haven't done it because of the acidity, hyperacidity in my stomach.
Understood. But I'm happy to hear about your daughter, Dina, because
Yeah,
I'm happy that there is already an empirical
yeah,
testament to the wonders of fasting. And
yeah.
also, presenting this on the table, Not for everyone, because I know that we are coming from different perspectives, different scenarios, different physiological status, like what you mentioned, and it always has to be guided by medical practitioners and
Yeah.
medical professionals. I am, by the way, I'm not a medical professional, but I'm just, passionate about this because this is something that is working, has worked, and is working for me, and I'm happy that the same is true and being observed in your daughter's situation.
Indeed, indeed. So I just wanted to mention it because everything that you have discussed so far, that you've explained, makes sense, because that's actually how my daughter improved her health. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what, Dina, I'm talking about health, and we established health and leadership, and you agree. I'm very happy that we are on the same page as, health really contributes to great leadership. And
Yes.
there was an experiment, going to my next book. There was experiment, Dina, and I believe you are aware of this, and probably we can have a small discussion that can you recall the marshmallow test? Is that something that rings a bell?
Well, I haven't heard of that, so please, let us know what it is
Yes.
about.
So the marshmallow test is a test. Or it was done in the Stanford University, where they actually tested children. So they said, to the children, there's a two experimental group. So children, they said that, okay, there's a bowl of marshmallow there, and they said, please do not touch the marshmallow. We will just, we'll tell you when you can have the marshmallow. All right. So because kids, you don't know, they're very naughty, and then sometimes they have less self-restraint. Some of them would actually, get the marshmallow and eat it. But another group would actually really wait until they are actually told that, hey, you can already eat the marshmallow. And because of that, there is a longitudinal study between those who actually were not able to restrain themselves and ate the marshmallow, and another group that were able to control themselves until they graduate to high school, to college, and become corporate citizens. So, Dina, any guesses? Who is the group that is more successful between the two groups?
Oh, I believe the one who showed early on that they can control themselves, because as a leader, if you lose control, that would affect your followers. They can see it,
For
and
sure, for
they will.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. Most probably, they will lose respect, and they will start questioning
Oh
your
yes.
leadership.
Oh yes. So that's why we're saying here that self-control and leadership, they go hand in hand. And now, Dina, so between people who practice probably fasting and people who probably are not open to fasting. So let's take away those people who cannot because of physiological issues like yourself, right? So for those who are able to fast and those who are not able to fast, which 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 group do you think would become effective leaders or more effective leaders?
Oh, definitely, Eric. The way I see it now, and the way you have laid out to us all these facts, and this is not just now. It's been over centuries ago, and it simply means that it is somehow beneficial to our bodies, our physical health, and at the same time our mental capabilities, if we go fasting, because uh, we are giving rest, to the organs in our body, so that they will function better. So I believe, yes, that fasting and self-awareness go together.
Yeah, that's true, Dina. It's by no means, it's not by no means really scientifically proven, but there are some correlations and anecdotal references where we can really see that if you have stronger self-control, most people who are practicing fasting, it's proven that they have stronger self-control. And if we agree that people with stronger self-control are also better leaders, then somehow those correlations flow together. But I'm not claiming anything. I'm just stating that there are strong correlations among those three different variables. Lastly, fasting and self-awareness. So, you know, the buzzwords right nowadays, Dina. So even before, or especially heightened during the pandemic, leaders are not only seen as supposed to be authoritative. They're expected to be vulnerable, more sensitive, more empathetic, you know. And Dina, these leaders, how can they be more vulnerable? How can they be more empathetic? And I guess the answer there is that you have to be more self-aware. And if you're more self-aware, then all of these attributes somehow would be heightened and would follow through. And there is a strong correlation and strong relationship between fasting and self-awareness. Why? Because essentially, instead of focusing on self-gratification, you become more introspective, and probably you spend more time just, you know, trying to introspect and trying to reflect on things. You know, instead of just eating, using the time to eat, you spend more time in terms of introspection. So the more they say the more that you go up the corporate ladder, the more that you have to have a journal with you, because it becomes very important, because you become aware of what you have done, what you will be doing, and introspect on those that you have done, so that you would really internalize the ramifications and implications of the actions that you have done. So I guess, you know, again, there is no direct relationship, but somehow these are correlations that flow together. I'm not claiming that can you become an effective leader, but somehow these relationships are correlated. Maybe not causal, but they are related and positively correlated together. So that's why I am really forcing the issue that fasting is good for leadership overall. Anyway, last, Dina, and this is essentially some points to ponder further, and these are practical approaches, Dina. So to me, I believe that breakfast is really the most important meal of the day. But if you define, how do you define breakfast, Dina? What is breakfast to you?
Okay. That's the reason why the word breakfast came to being, is that you're supposed to be fasting the whole evening, and then in the morning, when you eat your first meal, it's like breaking the fasting. So that's
Spot
the reason why,
on. Spot
yeah, breakfast.
on. Spot on, Dina. That's right. That's what I wanted to get from you, essentially. So breakfast is the meal, is the first meal that you take after exercising or practicing fasting. So now, even if you eat breakfast at night, it is still breakfast. Or if you eat breakfast at lunchtime, it is still breakfast, because it is the meal that you eat to break the fast. So
Yeah.
what I meant here is, yes, it is probably the most important meal of the day, but it doesn't have to be always done in the morning.
Yes, yes. I agree. I agree. By the way, it happens to me too, because sometimes I get too busy when I wake up, that I I I forget to eat, and then I would have brunch instead. So that's why, like I combine the breakfast and lunch, so it becomes a brunch. I know a lot
Yeah.
of people who are doing that as well.
Right. And number two is actually very practical. Yeah, to me, it looks practical, and I don't know how this would appeal to some of our listeners or viewers. When you have less meals a day, you can devote the time to other pursuits. You know? So just imagine how much time you devote to preparing,
Yes,
selecting, eating, and even digesting food. And sometimes when you eat
yes,
so much, it even begs the question of, should you have siesta, only because you're just too full to function optimally, right? So again, it steals productivity from you. It steals time that is otherwise should have been used for more productive and probably even loftier pursuits. So just food for thought again. So again,
yes, yes,
when you yeah. So when you eat less, this is my third point. When you eat less frequently, you become more focused on the quality of your food. Like for me, Dina, sabi ko, isang beses na lang ako kakain ng isang araw, sasayangin ko pa ba yun sa isang calorific full and non-nutritious food? I would rather go for very filling and fulfilling food because there are food that are filling, but sometimes you're not satisfied even if you feel full. Have you experienced that? Have you experienced that, Dina? Right? So
Well,
yeah, go ahead,
yeah.
Dina.
Actually, Eric, just I just remembered my interaction with some executives. I noticed with some of my friends when we sometimes we have discussions or we have meetings, they they just take what coffee or they just take juice or just water, and they simply skip on the food. And there are some who eat a little more, and there's something I noticed. There's a big difference. Now that we have discussed this, it just came to my mind. Oh, now I realize why those leaders, the friends that the people I know who just focus more on the discussion, the topic at hand, and then they don't touch food. They only have water, juice, or coffee. They seem to be even tempered, and they seem to be a very empathic. I mean, you can tell that they are with you. They're really listening and they are really there, and you can appreciate it because they tend to share freely of their knowledge and skills. So it now has dawned on me that must be the reason why there are certain people who are able to think better and to be more, shall we say, understanding of others and listen more, because they are the people I notice who hardly I mean, most of the time they don't touch their food at all. They just take, I know, liquids. So maybe that is
Wow.
some form of fasting as well. And I do realize this because compared to those who focus on eating and they eat a lot, they are not as, shall we say, they are not as good a listener, and they are not as patient as those who refrain from eating. So I think that has some kind of a bearing on this topic,
Yeah,
Eric.
yeah, there might be, Dina. So yes, and funny enough that you brought that up because the fourth book actually speaks to that. So as leaders, you have the responsibility not only to be healthy, but to be lucid. So lucid is you have clear thought. So remember, Dina, I was talking, sugar energy versus ketosis or keto energy. The brain prefers keto because that's the default system and it does not leave the brain with plaques, right? So when you are in a state of ketosis, you will experience great clarity that you will not experience when you are full of carbohydrates and full of sugar. And naturally, when you eat less during the day, there's a tendency for you to eat less sugar as well and less carbohydrates, right? So that's probably one of the best reasons to go on intermittent fasting. Last but not the least, and this is also historical in nature, and these two guys, not really partial, but definitely Jesus for sure. So if Jesus and Buddha had breakthroughs after fasting, wouldn't modern day leaders like us should consider this too? So that is my food for thought, Dina. And I would just like to thank you and Leaders Edge for allowing me to have this platform again to really advocate for a healthier leadership lifestyle. And again, I'm happy if you have questions, Dina. I'm definitely game for further conversation, but definitely heartfelt gratitude for this opportunity. And hopefully, our listeners and our viewers are able to take away something or even food for thought out of this conversation.
Indeed, and I'm full of gratitude for you, Eric, for bringing this up, because most of the time, what is being discussed now is mental health, you know, and health in the workplace. But so far, nobody. among all the speakers that I know, nobody has touched on fasting and the importance of fasting and how to become a more effective leader. So this is for me a breakthrough topic that
Oh,
for all of a sudden, it will open up a lot of eyes, because while we have been having speakers who will explain about physical fitness, about mental wellness, etc., but nobody has yet discussed the topic of fasting and how it can actually level up or improve one's effectiveness as a leader. This is so welcome to all of us, Eric. Thank you. Thank you
well,
so much.
thank you so much,
And ladies
Dina.
and oh my gosh, thank you again. And ladies and gentlemen, we just want to advise everybody that next, or our season ender, will be the enigmatic, or the one and only Sonia Garcia of Sonia's Secret Garden. Do click like and subscribe. That learning is a never ending journey with limitless vistas. Good day.